This is episode 6 of the Empower Me Parents podcast, and today we're warming up for the new year. Welcome to the Empower Me Parents podcast, a proudly South African podcast for parents of high school students. Your child's success and all the rest is our mission. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach, Nicole van Rensburg. Let's do this. Hello everyone, welcome back and Happy New Year. So I hear that we can still say Happy New Year up until the 15th, so Happy New Year. And I really look forward to an unbelievable year together in podcasting and in life, of course. So much to learn, so many things, so many areas in which we can grow, and so many places we can get closer with our teen this year in 2024. So warming up to the new year, I love to warm up. I love to get myself psyched. I love to get myself pumped up and excited before school starts. And before we get fully into the zone with work, it is super important to get your mind right and to get yourself geared. Now, I know that a lot of people start to get quite anxious just before the school term starts, or just before university starts, or even just before work starts. We get the pre-work, preschool blues, and we start to doubt everything, and we start to get stressed, and we start to get anxious. And I know that that is part of the beginning of the year, and it is something we need to go through to get ourselves warmed up and psyched. But the problem is a lot of us stay in that mood and that zone, and we don't actually move through it and get ourselves to the more positive side of that, the flip side of that, which is also there. We just focus on the bad stuff. And then we start our year in a bad zone, which is not what we want. So here in this episode, we're going to look at a couple of things, and not really resolutions. I don't like to do New Year's resolutions, but we're going to look at a couple of things we can start implementing, a couple of things we can start trying slowly to get going in our lives and in the lives of our teens, so that this year can be the best one yet. Now, when I say the best one yet, does not mean it's going to be a year without struggle. If we don't have struggle, we don't have growth. That is something that I haven't discussed too much on the podcast, but it is necessary to know that with every growth spurt, with every new phase, there's going to be its challenges, and we must be prepared and ready to face those challenges and not let them get us down. So I thought I'd start, first of all, just tagging into one of my previous episodes where we spoke about using Excel to track our child's progress. And I thought I'd remind you to set up a little Excel spreadsheet if this is something you're interested in doing, or set up your little notebook so that we can start tracking in a positive manner where our child's academic progress is going. So just a quick reminder, you'll have an Excel spreadsheet. Down the left-hand side, you're going to actually put the end of year results for all the different subjects that your child had. Then what you're going to do is you're going to sit with your child and you're going to set some realistic and gorgeous goals for term 1. Please remember that they must be realistic and attainable. There's no point in wanting to jump by 50% in a subject that is a struggling subject. It is not realistic in one term. It is not doable in one term. Unless you've been on an island doing no work whatsoever, it is not possible to jump by 50%. So I would suggest round about 10% above where you're at and make it a range. So let's say that your child is achieving 60%. Let's then say between 65 and 70% is our goal for this term. And that is an attainable goal. It's doable, because we must remember that with every year that they progress in school, the difficulty, the workload, the pressure, the emotions, the growth, all of that is in the way of achieving that goal, or in the road of achieving that goal, and makes it really difficult to do. So let's be realistic with our goals for our child. Let's get them excited. And let's start that Excel spreadsheet. Doesn't matter where you are in the journey of high school, never too late to start tracking the progress of your child. All right, now our second half of this episode is going to be a breakdown of my experience through my teaching and through my coaching of what to expect of every single year of high school. Obviously, there are deviations and there are obviously different experiences depending on where you are in South Africa, but these are the general issues and the general things that I've experienced. And let's discuss each year what to expect, what I suggest that you learn, and then importantly for you as the parent, what I suggest your role should be as a parent of that particular year. This is just a suggestion. You do what you feel is important and what works for you, but these are suggested ideas that I have for you. So let's start with grade 8. All right, we all know this is the first year of high school. The children are generally super excited or they are super anxious. One of the two, depending on their experience of primary school. And high school, as we know, is when they become big, and I say this in quotation marks, and it is one of the biggest journeys of growth that I suppose we all go through, is high school. It is also one of the most challenging times of life because of all the incredible changes and all the expectation and all the growing up that needs to happen. So grade 8 is our foundation year. We know this. And things to expect in grade 8 would be workload increase, definite workload increase. If I just use the example of exams, depending on whether you IEB school or government school, in grade 7, they wrote probably about 12 exams if you are looking at the end of the year. That was end of the year, mid-year was even less than that. If we're looking at grade 8, it is anywhere above 14 exams. Now, if we're looking at preparing for exams and they didn't even cope with 12, it is a huge load of pressure coming. And if we don't work on that from the beginning of the year, getting ourselves working more consistently, it's going to be a problem. And they might have a mini meltdown in the first set of exams in grade 8. Then we're looking at increased responsibility. The mindset and the whole environment in high school is an expectation of a little bit more mature. There's an expectation of increased independence, that students can work more independently and that teachers do not need to break down everything step by step, hold their hand for every single thing. There are things that are expected that you've learned in primary school that you can do by yourself without being reminded. So that is a huge pressure on students, depending on the experience of primary school. Primary school can very much, and it has its place, be hand-holding through everything. And high school is a shock to the system when they release that hand-holding and suddenly so much needs to be managed by this little person who is actually still a little person. We're looking at their age. They're still small, even though they're trying to act big shot and they're trying to be big. They are still small. And with that, I do want to encourage that we get the time management skill on the go. So things to learn to work consistently, often. Start to get in the habit of working harder and more consistently. In high school, it is not possible to just wing it. Study the day before. It is, yes, for some, I suppose it's possible, but for a very short time. So learning to work consistently, work often, have a specific time that you do homework, a specific time that you study. All of those skills need to start to be implemented from grade 8. Then we need to also start looking at balanced schedules. In primary school, it was very often super easy to be very busy with afternoon activities because the homework was far less. In high school, homework is a lot more. So we cannot overload them with 50 million things to do in the afternoons. We've got to guide them to make good choices. Yes, we want to give our children everything, of course, but we've got to be realistic in how much energy and how much time they have in the afternoons. So another thing to learn is to ask for help immediately. Please encourage your child that the minute they struggle with anything at school, that they attend the extra classes if they are, that they ask their teacher, that they get the support that they need. There is no shame in it because it builds. High school builds, and it doesn't stop. So if you miss one of the foundational bricks, it really sets you back. And it bites them the minute they get to their first exam. So that is important to learn to ask for help early. Do not stop asking questions in the class either. Something else I'd like to encourage, which is very good for their overall high school experience, is getting involved in the activities at school. To grow in confidence, to become part of the community of the high school, do not isolate. They're going from being the big shots in primary school to suddenly being the small fish in the big pond. And the only way they're going to be less small fish is if they start to get involved in the school activities. Whatever that may be, whether it be a play, if that's something that they're good at, or taking part in sports, be involved in what the school has to offer. All right. And the last section on grade 8 I'd like to talk about is the role of the parent. Now, this I don't blame you for, because a lot of parents, when their child goes to grade 8, they think their child is big and they release control and they can do everything now. And this I understand, because the child is pushing for it. But they don't know what's coming. They haven't been in grade 8 before. And it is important for you to keep your support and interest and inquisitiveness on how it is going with them going. Do not fully release to your grade 8 child because they are now, in quotation marks, big. They need your support more than ever. Then I'd like to also encourage that if they do need any academic support, as I said, they must ask for help. But if you see, if you hear, or if you even know from grade 7 that they struggled in a certain subject, please get them the support that they need, whether it be a tutor or extra classes, just to help lay those foundations, because it is critical to their high school success. Lastly, help them with their schedules. Help them by holding them accountable. They're going to resist. They're not going to love it. But you know what? Sometimes we've got to be the bad guy. We've just got to push through when they are resisting our help. And if they don't want our help, look at getting someone to help them, like a life coach or someone to support them, because they cannot do it by themselves as much as they want to. They cannot yet. They have not yet learned the skills. Right, that's grade 8. Seems heavy, but totally doable. Let's look at grade 9. This is also another challenging year. The workload, of course, increases. And what becomes very difficult in grade 9 is that the end point of learning subjects that they don't want to do is getting closer. So what you can definitely expect in your grade 9 is a decline in motivation when it comes to subjects that they don't like, especially if they know they're not going to take it in grade 10. If your child is, blessed enough to know what they're going to take, they are going to be so demotivated, and they have to continue to do it because it's the only way they can pass grade 9. So we're just going to have to find ways to encourage them to push through. And this is where you can start releasing the obsession with them all getting straight 90s and everything. It is not necessary. If you know for a fact, let's just use an example, that your child is not going to take maths core, which is higher grade maths, even though we feel everyone should take it. If your child is not blessed in the maths department, then let's not keep putting the intense pressure on them getting 90s for maths, because it's probably not going to happen. And then they're wasting all their time on a subject that they know they're not going to take. Or maths was probably a bad example. It's not a subject you can release. But if, let's say, for instance, geography. If they dislike geography like I did, then let's not push them to get 90s in geography. Let's rather push them in the subjects that we know they're going to take so that they can achieve the best results in those subjects. We've spoken about this in a previous episode, so let's not linger on that too much. As we know, grade 9 is the year that they choose their grade 10 subjects. I've just been hinting at it. And it is a lot of pressure on a small person to suddenly need to decide, what do I want to be when I grow up? Therefore, if they don't know what that is, they need to now suddenly still choose subjects based on something they don't know. And it is a lot of pressure. Some of them haven't even considered what they're going to be when they leave school. So this is a huge load to be dropped on them. And it is critical that we support them in this area to make good choices. By now, it is quite clear, or if not, it should be more or less clear which are their areas of strength, which are their areas of interest. And that will make it simple to choose subjects. But if it's not clear, it's going to be very important to start from the beginning of the year, to stop dropping the seeds, to start exploring what careers are out there, what are things that they're interested in, to start guiding the subject choice battle, because it comes before you know it. And then if you haven't explored it, it is immensely stressful. And a lot of students then pick subjects that their parents want them to pick when it's not something that they are at all interested in, and it creates a lot of conflict and a lot of stress. So your role as the parent to support your child would be to discuss careers, discuss interests, and do it early in the year, so that by the time the subject choices come around, you have an idea, you know what your child's passionate about, what their dreams are, and it makes it much easier. And if you can't do that, or if you struggle, get career guidance, get a coach, have them assessed early, so that all of these thoughts and choices can be made as early as possible. I also want to encourage you to continue to support them with their schedule and their accountability, and do not release the control yet. They are not big. They are still growing and learning. So that's grade 9. Huge, huge, huge year. Now we look at grade 10. This is the beginning of the race to matric. It has started if your child is in grade 10. And what often happens, what I've seen, is that the students are so relieved that they could release the subjects that they don't like. They've now made their choices, and they've suddenly gone from, let's say, 12 subjects down to 7. And they suddenly think, yes, I've landed in pound seats, happy days, and they stop working. That happens very often at the beginning of grade 10. And this is not a good thing, because what to expect in grade 10 is, just because you have less subjects, all of that time is now filled by work for those subjects. And the workload increases and the content difficulty increases. And this is where they fall off the bus so often. They underestimate the difficulty. They underestimate the workload. So I want to continue to encourage consistent working. Work on the areas of concern, even if it's subjects that have been chosen. Time management. Make sure you make time for your mental health and self-care, and do things that are fun as well. Make time to sleep. So getting that schedule from the beginning of the year is crucial. Now, what is your role as a parent of a grade 10? Here we're going to start to release control a little bit. I know up until now, grade 8 and 9, I say, do not release control. I think we should start releasing control a little bit now. Not too much. Don't allow them to go rampant, but allow them to make mistakes. Rather have them make mistakes now than later when it's really important, like matric. And when I talk about mistakes, I don't mean huge, catastrophic, go out drinking type of mistakes. I'm talking about small mistakes, choose to do this, even though you said, let's say, for instance, choose to do club soccer when you know that they don't have time. Let them make that choice and see that it affects them. Let them suffer a little bit with the choice that they've made. They need to learn to make decisions. And actually in life, there isn't such a thing as a bad decision. There's just a decision. And I'd rather have my child learn to make decisions. And if the decision turns out to be, quotation marks, wrong, learn from it. Learn to recover and learn to deal with failure. It is incredibly important. And when we spoke in the episode of Failing is Learning, we have to allow them to. And we're so terrified of our children failing that we prevent them and we protect them from all failure, which is not a good thing, because when they get into the real world, they're going to fail. And then suddenly it's new. And that's when people have breakdowns, because they've never learned to deal with failure. So what failure could there be, grade 10? Nothing catastrophic. They still have time until matric. So allow them to do it their way, even if you perceive it to be wrong. And if they fail, then at least they've gotten to do it their way, and then they will be more open to getting the help that they need when they see that what they thought works doesn't work. All right. Now let's look at grade 11. Grade 11, getting closer to matric, the pressure is on, and end of grade 11 results, they've been indoctrinated in this. Those are the results that will be used for preliminary university applications. That is a lot of pressure. So what I would definitely suggest is if we found in grade 10 that there was a subject that was chosen because we wanted to open lots of doors, and we've now realized that that's not a door that we even need to knock on, let's change subjects now. Please do not keep pursuing subjects that are not in the child's area of interest or talent. That is not something that they're going to use in case they want to use it one day. Are you kidding me? If they want to use it one day, then they will make a plan and they will study it and they will get the knowledge that they need. As I mentioned in a previous episode, I did not push through with Maths Core in case I needed it one day. I have not needed it, and if I do need it, then I will study what I need to study to get it done. We can think about that in our lives. We didn't study certain things at school because it was not interesting or we didn't need it, and when we need it, we study it. So it's really not something to break your neck about, is pushing your child in a direction that is just not serving them. So please make subject choices now so that they have time to catch up on what the core elements needed from grade 10. So let's look at what to expect. The work is similar to matric. We sometimes at school love to joke that grade 11 is just the, semester 1 of matric. And it very much is. A lot of the work that they learn in grade 11 is exactly the work that is going to be asked in finals in matric. So the work is literally beginning of matric, starting in grade 11. That is just how it is. So this is important to make sure the foundations, the core skills are learnt and mastered. The pressure starts increasing, which has been happening since grade 8. And it feels like there's time, but there is not time. So that working consistently, that solidifying your routine, making the mistakes you need to make with routine and testing out various types of studying needs to be done now and completed now so that you know how to study. You know how to manage your time. You know what works and what doesn't work. Do not wait until matric to figure that out. You need to make time for your self-care. They need to know at this point how to have a balanced schedule so that they are not burnt out. If your child is burnt out by the end of this year, where are they going to find the resources and the strength for matric? So let's get the support that they need, whether you do it yourself or whether you get a coach or you get some form of tutor to help them sort out their lives and their workload and their balance. All right, so something else I wanted to mention is attack areas of problem now in your subjects. If there's a specific topic in a subject that you've been avoiding because you just can't do it, please attack it now. It's not going to go away, cannot hide from it, cannot ignore it. If it is something that keeps popping up, get the support to sort it out so that it's no longer an issue. All right, parent role. Help them relook at their career choices. Now, the last time that career choices were discussed was in grade 9. So if your child is now in grade 11, they've changed, they've grown up, they've matured. As long as you were involved, you've been chatting about careers, but deep discussions about careers has not really been done since grade 9. So it's important to re-explore. And if we need to pivot, we pivot. Hence why I said change the subjects now. It's not too late. So your child is now more interested in life and a little bit more serious about life possibly. So exploring new career possibilities, and the world's changing constantly. So maybe there are jobs now that were not available when your child was in grade 9. So explore that. Once again, support your child's decisions. They are becoming bigger, so they should be encouraged to make decisions. Do not allow your child to sit in indecision for too long. Not a good thing. Get them the support that they need for their time management, as we've mentioned above, as well as their mental health. and make them aware of the costs of living. This is something I've seen as a huge gap in my matrics. By the time they're a matric, they don't have time to worry about other things. They just want a matric. They want to get it done. And I have found that at the end of matric, they're going towards university and all that, and they have absolutely no understanding of what it costs to live. And I don't mean to give them your bank statement and shock them. That's not what I mean, but start to make them aware of what they cost. And schooling is more expensive than universities mostly, so that might shock them, but give them an idea of what does their phone bill cost? What does it cost to buy food? Start to make them more aware of the cost of living so that when they leave school, they have a better understanding of what to expect. Because I've seen matrics that have absolutely no idea what things cost. And then they want to go out on their own fighting for their independence. And the minute they get there, they realize, oh my soul, where's this money coming from? So that's something I can definitely encourage in grade 11. Start the discussions on the cost of living. All right, and our final year, which is our final year of school as well as matric, the final countdown. I'm not going to break down in song. I nearly did. But what to expect in this year is a mad rush. It is so quick. I can't even think now how many months or how many school days. Each school has their own, but it is so little. And there's no time to mess around. Now, something you need to discuss with your child is that this year, because of the nature of it and because of the significant importance of it, there is possibly going to be a time where they're going to be able to play less. And play, I always encourage to find the fun and to have fun and do things that you enjoy. But there will be times this year where they're going to have to sacrifice the things that they love to get their schoolwork done. It is just the reality of it. It doesn't mean that they're going to stop that forever. It doesn't mean they can't do it at all, but they're going to have to significantly reduce the time spent on the fun, the play, the gaming, the whatever it may be that your child loves to do, because the work is just so much. And the time frame is so short, and everyone is super pressurized to get the matrics through their year. So just make them aware of that at the beginning of the year and remind them of it consistently, that if you're releasing something that you love, it is just for a short time. It feels like forever at the beginning of the year, but it is just a short time. So stick to the routine, work consistently, attack which needs to be attacked in terms of difficult subjects right away before the pressure's on. Otherwise, they will crumble. And they will struggle. And getting them the support through this year, I cannot encourage more than the matric year. A life coach, a counselor, a something, anyone that they can go to consistently to talk about what they're going through, to get everything out of their mind and make plans, and just to help them feel that they can get through this is crucial. So please, if it is possible for you, make sure that they have the support that they need and that it's consistent support. And I'm not talking about extra maths, extra science. That, yes, you might need that, but I'm talking about overall wellness and just managing my life support. That is needed in matric more than any other year. So let's look at other things that need to be looked at. In terms of your parent role, discuss with them how they would like you to support them. And I know that it's challenging because our children very often think we don't know anything. They'd rather listen to the auntie or they'd rather listen to the teacher than the parent. But please make your child aware that you are there and you will support them however they need you to support them. So if they need you to be an ear sometimes, then be an ear. If they need advice, then give advice, but ask them how it is that they need you to support them. And please discourage them from saying, I don't need any support, because they're going to need it. Then monitor their workload and their mental state. When they're in it, they don't often realize when they're spiraling. So I really would like to encourage you to monitor how much are they working, how much are they playing, and how are they emotionally. you will start to see when something is off and help them immediately, because sometimes they're so overwhelmed that they can't even ask for help. They're so overwhelmed. So overwhelm is coming. It is part of the matric year. It is part of the rite of passage. So please just observe what is going on and support them when they need it. Something I'd also like to beg of you is to please assist them with university applications and college applications. It is easy to say that they must do it because they're now big, but because of the intense workload, that can seem like an impossible mountain. So even if it just means downloading their application forms or printing their ID books and getting it certified for them, whatever you can do to support them with that really takes a load off. Because if they have to do it themselves, it is probably not going to happen until last minute. And then last minutes have piled up and they're literally beating out fires everywhere around them. So please, if you can help them early, or if you can just say to them, look, mommy will take on this role or dad will take on this role for you, just to ease that process because of the pressure at school, that sometimes goes, to the side, but it is incredibly important. So if you could do that, that's really going to help. So that's my breakdown of high school. Sounds unbelievably intense, but let's remember that your child is growing. We cannot grow without struggle. We cannot grow without challenges. And these are all part of the journey. And we've all survived it. And they will too. I just want you to be aware of what's coming. And it might be slightly different to when we were at school. I know that observing school now is very different to how it was when I was at school. So let's just support them wherever we can and be with them on this unbelievable growth journey of high school. I look forward to chatting to you all next week. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this was helpful, and I really look forward to connecting with you all. Please leave a comment for me. Please send me an email. I would love for you to also rate my podcast on any of the streaming services that you listen to. Please do so. That helps me to get my podcast out to those who need me. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to take things to a new level in your or your child's life, visit empowermecoachingsa.co.za and sign up for one of our personalized coaching programs. Let's do this. See you next time.